What's up? What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Rev Book Shelf. I think that's the title, right? Did I get it right that time? I think I've said like for every show that we've done. I think it's the fourth one. I've said it differently every single time. But thank you to the Goo Goo Dolls for writing that intro. That is the whole time I'm like, and I don't want the world. You can never unhear it. It's an awesome song. I don't care. City of Angels. It's an okay movie, but a better soundtrack. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Mickey 7, which is the book that the movie Mickey 17 was based off of. I have not watched it. Soul has. I will definitely watch it now. Now, that being said, by the trailers, at least my initial thoughts, the book, tone-wise, is way different on that. Not that's a bad thing, but this book is a lot more grounded and not more as fantastical in that situation. But so, how are we feeling?
I enjoyed this book. This might be one of like those rare moments that I like the movie more than I like the book, which doesn't happen a lot, but sometimes it does.
Mm-hmm.
The ending is very different in the movie than the book. And one thing when it comes to books and movies, I like watching movies first because typically the book is always better. And so it's just like, oh, if I watch the movie first, I just get a little bit more insight if I read the book second. Whereas if I read the book first, then it's just like, oh, they didn't do this or they didn't do that or they didn't do that. So I'm one of those people that like watching the movie or the TV show first. But in this case, it influenced my reading of the book even more so because I liked the way that they did things in the movie a little bit more than the way they did things in the book. Not that it's a bad book, just a little anticlimactic at the end. I think you would agree with me on that point. Yeah. And I feel like the side characters are fleshed out a little bit more in the movie than in the book, but you get to learn a lot more about Mickey in the book than in the movie. Okay. And you get to learn kind of a little bit more about the different planets and the reasoning for these type of colonization that they're doing. Like you don't really get much of that in the movie of why they're doing what they're doing. They're just going, right? Whereas you get to learn more about that in the book, which that part's interesting for me. So in a sense, that heightens the movie experience knowing a little bit more of that.
Yeah, and I like, as far as like the planetary stuff, it's kind of crazy how like every planet has a religious based name behind it, because you had Midgard and Nephilim, which are mainly Norse,
very Norse, yeah,
very Norse. But then you had Eden, which is much more of a Christianity type thing, and then they're just like, and then there was just Earth that we left because it was over colonized.
And Longshot, that one was my favorite name.
but mainly we were talking about Midgard and Nephilim, or Niflheim. I can never pronounce that part yet, but I know that's very Norse. Yeah. As far as the different, there was like in Norse mythology, there's like 7 realms or something. I don't know, something like that. But
Midgard is Earth,
right?
In like the Norse mythology.
Right.
So, and that is the funny thing of the difference in the movie. I don't remember if they ever explained that the planet that they're leaving was not Earth, because I just made the assumption that they were leaving Earth and going to Niflheim, that there wasn't any other colonies, right? Where in the book you learn, oh no, there was an Earth, and then we left Earth, and the first one they went to was Eden, and then from there went to all these different other planets, very Star Wars like.
Yeah, but it's not Star Wars at the same time, because this book is very, very grounded.
Yeah.
And it's very...
Although the bullet is a little Death Star-y.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, and also with, towards the end, I don't want to... We haven't gotten to the point of spoilers and 3, 2, 1 stuff. So I guess overall, I did enjoy the book, but it took me a little bit to get used to the pacing based off just the trailer of the movie alone, because you thought it was going to be, some type of Star Wars, but he, obviously I understood that there's cloning involved and all those other things. And it's a little bit more intricate in the book as far as how the cloning came about and stuff like that. But then also how they spun it on why Mickey was telling you about the exposition, but they actually like put a little snippet in there of why he was telling you this and why he knew all this. It wasn't just because the author says, "Oh, Mickey just knows this stuff." He actually wrote in the book of why Mickey would know all of this history.
Yeah.
Situation, which I did like. At least he had that little nugget. The writer had that little nugget in there of why the first person and Mickey and all the troubles he was in.
And I like that in the book versus the movie. Like in the movie, you just think like, oh, he needs to get off of this planet, and like him and his friend Berto are kind of bumbling idiots, and they find themselves on this ship to leave the planet. And in the book, it's just like, no, he's not an idiot. He's a historian, but there's no really need for historians now in this world. So he's actually a very smart person. Something's going on outside, if you can hear. But and so I kind of like that aspect in there too, that of learning more about Mickey, that you get a chance, which you always do in books. You learn more about your protagonist.
The character's fleshed out, but yet, like you said in the movie, other characters more fleshed out in the movie. This one's very much, it's Mickey's world. Obviously, there's two of them, but Mickey 7 mainly is the main character. So, and it after like this, as soon as he came up, anyway, I don't want to spoil. Do we do the spoiler countdown at this point so we can get into it?
Yeah, want to get into the spoilers?
Yeah, let's get into the spoilers, guys. This is This is 3, 2, 1. That's your warning. Spoils. So, chapter 1. So, what we got?
Okay, so we meet Mickey and Berto in the first chapter and learn that Mickey is an expendable. And we get kind of the stupidest death ever. So Mickey falls into this hole. And like Berto's like, yeah, I'm not going to go rescue. It goes, oh, sorry. Like just leaves him in the hole. And that comes to play a little bit later. The different stories that Berto gives on how Mickey died.
Not good at poker. Is that Berto? Not a good poker face.
No. What I find funny in the book is what he fell, and it is a much larger distance than in the movie. It's not that large of a distance. Like you're watching on screen, you're like, Berto, you could easily save this man, and you're just like, no.
Yeah, we'll just bring you back. It's no big deal.
Berto is much more of a shithead in the movie. Like he is not a good guy, not a good best friend. Where he's a little bit more likable in the book.
I thought he was kind of a dick, and then he got buddy. But he wasn't at the same time.
He's kind of a dick in the book. He's even more dickish in the movie.
Yeah, I saw the ending of that, which is Berto, the character Berto, is in the movie, but it's a different character name, correct?
I forget his name. It's just Stephen Yeun, Invincible. Yeah. Which when I watched the movie too, I was like, all I hear is Mark Grayson.
It's like T. It starts with a T.
But we also learn. Hey, Brennan. We also learned that Mickey, he hasn't backed up his mind in the past 6 weeks. So if he dies in this hole, that he's losing 6 weeks of his life when Mickey 8 is going to come out of the bio printer. And his girlfriend Nasha, he comes to like save him, and he doesn't want her to get hurt, so she's like, no, you keep going. And then he's able to find his way out of this cave, out of this hole, with the help of the creepers. And one of them is a big old creeper. Big old creeper. And he kind of puts this, I'm going to need to reassess my criteria for picking best friends. And so chapter ends Mickey 7 walking into his room, and he finds Mickey 8 in his bed. So thoughts on chapter 1?
Berto's an asshole. And Mickey was just like, and then Nasha comes along, was like, I'll save you, which is by the way, I just love how that the love interests are already like together by the start of the book. Yeah. Like you typically don't have the will they, won't they, even though we kind of did that later on in the book with the security guard that I can't remember her name. We'll get Cat. Yes. Thank you. Which totally represented differently in the movie, but different character name, all that stuff. But yeah, but how she's represented in the movie was exactly what I was thinking she was going to be represented in the book, and it wasn't that way. But Kat is later. Nasha is just like, oh yeah, Nasha, and then we've been together for blah blah blah. I'm like, oh okay, we're just jumping right into this thing, and she wanted to save him, but he was like, no, the creepers are gonna kill. I'm gonna just do. And she's like, are you sure? It's like, yeah. It's like, and this is the person that she at the beginning of the book we get. Oh, she loves Mickey, and Mickey's still telling her like, just let me die, and she's just like, sure. And so that gives you that world building in a very subtle way. Which I really liked about that. And then, Berto's just an asshole. And then as soon as he walked out and the creeper basically, he was like, all right, I'm about to die, whatever. And then the creeper just picks him up and walks him and just drops him off and goes, there you go, you're free. And I was like, okay, this is different. And then as soon as they dropped him off, he just walked by that one security guard and all that stuff. And then he finally got to the room. As soon as he got to the room, I'm like, Mickey ain't going to be there, isn't he? Because Bear's going to go back and say some bullshit thing. Guess what? That's exactly what he did.
He's dead.
So we're off and running.
Yeah. And one thing and we get a little bit of the stuff that it's later in the book, but I felt like it took too long to get more info on Nasha. Just kind of we get these really sweet moments that you get. Those are earlier in the story and they play out earlier in the movie. And so you get to I loved Nasha's performance in the movie, and I loved you really feel the love between her and Mickey that you don't really get until much later in the book. So I hate that we don't get that earlier in the book.
A weird moment in the book. A weird moment in the book.
Where you get it very early. You get it very early in the movie that I was like, oh, these two are very important to each other.
Right.
But going into chapter 2, we learn how Mickey became an expendable. He agreed to be an expendable because he didn't have any other skills and he needed to get off of Midgard. And this was the first colony ship we chartered since our own landfall 200 years prior. And signing on as an expendable was the only way that he was going to win passage. The planet they currently are on is called Niflheim, which like we said earlier, Norse names for these planets. We learned that most expendables don't take the easy way out when they're dying a slow death. So he's learning all these things about expendable. He's like, oh, wouldn't you just shoot yourself in the head or something if you're dying? And there's the innate part of the human body to save yourself, even if you know that you're going to come back. You end up taking the slow death over the quick. But we get Gwen, who explains what it is to be an expendable, the different excruciating ways that you can die, and that so many people have applied for this mission, and every position has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of applicants for one or two small positions, and this is the only position that no one has applied for other than Mickey. So he's the only one, so he gets it immediately. And he kind of asked her, he was like, why are you trying to convince me of all the horribleness of this job and that I shouldn't be doing it? And you're kind of she's kind of giving him the don't do this vibe. And she was just like, oh, you seem like a nice guy and I would rather have an asshole be an expendable.
Yeah, we learn later of who expendables actually are and why Mickey is trying to get off this planet so freaking bad.
Yeah.
Fucking Beardo.
I mean, it's
not Beardo's fault in a sense.
It's not Beardo's fault in a sense. In the movie, it's definitely Beardo's fault. It's a different reason why. So it's kind of, I was just like, oh, this is actually less so of a fuck Beardo moment. But Berto, I don't, because his last name's Gomez and I was like, oh, is it Berto or is it Berto or what is the way in there? I was like, is he Latino or not? I don't know. But thoughts on learning about what being an expendable is and kind of just that training.
Well, no one wants to do it, so it's it's like Mike Rowe's dirty jobs. The expendable is a dirty job, and it times that by infinity of who would really want. It's oh, you get to on one part, you get to live forever in a sense, but another part, you're a lab rat. You are literally the testing subject of whatever world they're going to. You're the one that they go out because you are expendable. So therefore, you're going to die. You're going to be brought back, and you're going to have to go through that over and over again. So a lot of times, what is it? Would you take immortality for the fact that you have to actually go through the pain of dying that many times?
Yeah,
kind of a weird psyche to go through.
And experience death too. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that would be very interesting. There's some definitely philosophical questions in this book and in the movie. We go back to chapter 3. We're back to present day with him and Mickey 8. And Mickey 8, he's just out of the printer. I guess is the best way to call it.
Yeah, it's I don't know. There's a lot. It gets real sci-fi and technical jargon shit of like going down the body. Like, at least they said the body chute or something of that nature, the body tube.
Yeah.
But as far as like,
but coming out of the printer and that.
Hold on for 1 second. That reminds me. I've still yet to figure out how the economic money situation works, because it's like all these creds and these whatever. I don't understand that.
It's rations. It's a universal basic income. Basically, is what the colony is working off of.
Right.
And the basic income is your rations for your food.
Right.
Like you're not getting paid to do your jobs. You're just doing it. And then, but we kind of learned that coming out of the printer, you feel a little hungover, you feel a little hungry, you're a little hangry. So you're just like, so Mickey 7 immediately like feels for Mickey 8, because he's like, oh, I know what that feels like. And they kind of have this just like, well, one of us has to die. We can't be in multiple. And we learn later on about like what people feel about multiples, because we're already getting a sense that people don't really like expendables that much, and we learn even more why people don't like expendables, but they really don't like multiples. And we have while Mickey 8 is showering, Berto comes to visit with Mickey 7, thinking that he's 8, and lies about how Mickey died, saying the creepers got him. He also says that it's how Mickey 6 died. So we know, like, are just like, what happened to Mickey 6? Which that plays throughout the, just like, oh, Berto, he's a little liar. He's a little liar. And then we have here, there's a certain peace that comes from knowing without a doubt what's going to happen to you. The possibility that I might survive this morning is a source of anxiety as much as it is a source of hope. So we kind of like, we're getting into the psyche of Mickey 7, and notes that he could make himself believe that immortality line that they gave him, that's a few hours after Mickey 3 died, Mickey 4 came out of the tank, and that he could imagine that it would just be him both times, closing his eyes and then opening. But Mickey 8 is not a continuation of him. So this is the first time where it's just like, oh, every other death was I close my eyes, I wake up, I close my eyes, wake up. This is I haven't closed my eyes yet, but my eyes have woken up over there. So now we're two different people, even though we're the same person. And we learn about the biocycler, how gross it is. It takes our shit, our tomato stems, our potato peels, and rabbit bones, and half-chewed gristle, our hair clippings and fingernails, our dropped-off scabs and wadded-up tissues, and eventually our corpses. In return, it gives us protein paste and vitamin slurry and fertilizer that people actually eat. So
I mean, it's hey, we saw it in the Martian. You know, I'm about to science the shit out of this, and he literally like used all their shit that they built up in that movie to grow potatoes.
Yep.
So.
And then Mickey 7 and Mickey 8, they play rock paper scissors on who's gonna die.
Yeah.
So kind of reminded me a little bit of Andor season 2. For those,
don't spoil it. I haven't watched that either.
Yeah, for those who've watched the first season of Andor season 2, there's a rock, paper, scissor like moment that is very funny. So thoughts on chapter 3 and the rock, paper, scissors for death.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird way. But you definitely get the sense at the start of this is that even though he's a multiple of Mickey 8, or like Mickey 8 is a multiple of Mickey 7, they're not the same person. And that is literally like the same, different psyche, even though they have the same life experiences, but because Mickey 7, like you were saying, like he went to sleep, he woke up, and went to sleep, woke up. So it's a very fluid mind. Whereas now, because Mickey 8 woke up and he didn't log his memories or whatever it was at the time, so Mickey 8 has a large gap of what Mickey 7 has lived through. So it's very well written in that sense. I have to tip my cap to the writer of at least being like, okay, it's the same person, but you understand why they have different mindsets and different philosophies, even just in the book itself, even though they're the same person. Is because Mickey 8 hasn't lived some of the things that Mickey 7 has, because he doesn't know that Burial lied to him about him. He died when he was with Mickey 6, and then Mickey 7 starts questioning. It's like, all right, well, if Berto's lying to me about that, what else is he lying about?
Right.
And it goes through that, but he can't confront him.
And Mickey 7 knows the truth of what happened, and Mickey 8 doesn't.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy how this was the setting off point of like,
who would you be if you had gaps in your memory?
Right.
Yeah.
On that. So I thought this was a very well written chapter as far as figuring out why Mickey 7 and Mickey, it established it really quick that Mickey 8 and Mickey 7, even though they're the same person, they're duplicate or multiples. They're totally different people because Mickey 8 hasn't gone through all the life that Mickey 7 has, which my eyes start to cross even talking about that because it's just so confusing just saying out loud. But that's how well it was written because I understand what the writer was doing.
Yeah. And they are so similar to each other in the book, where in the movie they are completely different from one another. So the personalities of Mickey 17 and Mickey 18 are very different. And you kind of, the conversation in the movie, or what they're trying to convey in the movie, is that all of us, there's different parts of our personality, and some parts of our personality shine more than others, but we still hold these other parts of our personality within ourselves. But when you get reprinted over and over again, different parts of your personality are going to shine more than others. So they're still the same person. They still come from the same place, but a part of Mickey 18's personality of being that more aggressive, angry person is more highlighted in Mickey 18 than Mickey 17. And then we haven't gotten to it yet, but Nasha immediately knows when she sees like, oh, you guys are different, because she knows her Mickeys and she's experienced all the Mickeys. And so she's like, oh, this Mickey was really compassionate. This Mickey was really this Mickey was really that, like different parts of the personality shining. So, and she's loved every single part of it because she loves Mickey and she loves all the parts of him. So it's funny how like that is, you see more of that in the movie than you really do in the book, because in the book they're just a little too similar to one another.
They are.
But going and the rock, paper, scissors, we didn't say Mickey 8 won the rock, paper, scissors there, but we kind of in chapter 4, we're going back in time a little bit. We learn about the trouble Mickey got into in Midgard. He got into Darius Blank's shit list, and we learn more about Mickey and Berto's friendship. They went to school together. The thing you have to understand about Berto is that he's one of those obnoxious kids who's prodigy level good at nearly everything he ever tried, which isn't that annoying. And there's this sport called Pogball that, like, without even trying, Berto just became a pro at it. And he took like a 9-year gap from the game, and he's just like, oh, before I leave off planet, I want people to have people remember me by something. I'm going to join this tournament, even though I haven't played the sport in 9 years. And Mickey's just like, I think he's going to lose.
Yeah.
So I'm a bet against my best friend.
A lot of money.
And he wins every match. And like each consecutive match, he's like, I'm gonna double down on him losing. And freaking Berto wins the entire freaking tournament. And so Mickey's down bad with some money. He owes a lot of money.
Like
be careful when you gamble, guys.
Yeah.
And one of Darius's men showed up at Mickey's apartment that night, and that is when Mickey was just like, I need to get off this planet, and he finds a slot available to be an expendable. So that is why he is escaping Midgard. So finding out more about Mickey and Berto's friendship, about him just being good at this sport, and Mickey down bad money-wise.
This had Mickey being envious as hell in this chapter of Berto and his successes, and it was like, I'm tired of him. He can't just be this good all the time. Like he picks up everything, and he's always just better than me at everything. Yeah, he's just everything we'd want. And then and at the end of the day, he was like, all right, well, you're finally going to fail at something, and I'm going to cash in on it. And then he wins. And then they even said in the book that they were mad about it. The race is going on, so if you're hearing screaming in the background, they're my fam. I'm in my family's place because the Kentucky Derby's going on. So if you hear screaming in the background, it's because they're screaming about the Kentucky Oaks. But anyway, Berto. And the thing was like after he lost the bet, he was bitching at Berto for winning, and Berto was like, I didn't know it wasn't my fault you placed the bet. I didn't know you were placing the bet. So
if I knew you were placing a bet, I would have told you to bet on me.
Yeah, I would have told you to bet on me. Like that whole thing. So this whole chapter, it makes sense on why Mickey wanted to get off the planet.
Yeah.
Because spoiler alert, typically Expendables are criminals. And also Mickey never told, other than Berto, he never told, Nasha still doesn't know till this day, according to the book, of why he came off the planet, of why he's an expendable. Like he never tells anyone in the book of the exact reason that he owes Darius blank money. Other than Berto knowing it, and that's so weird. Like we went through the whole book. I'm like, tell someone, please, and they never do. They never resolve that.
Yeah. What's interesting in the movie, and again, like I'm doing a lot of movie stuff here, is so in the movie there's no tournament, there's none of that. The person who is in trouble with Darius Blank is Berto in the movie, and he kind of drags Mickey along with him. So Mickey gets pulled. Mickey gets pulled in, and Darius just was like, "Oh, you two," and Mickey like literally didn't do anything. It was all Berto, but Berto was like, "Oh, me and my friend." So, and the thing is, Berto already had a spot as a pilot to leave off world, and Mickey didn't. So he kind of left his friend high and dry to have to deal with Darius. So then that's why Mickey signs up to be an expendable. So again, Berto much worse in the movie.
Because this one it was Mickey was just envious.
Yeah, it was Mickey's envy that got him in trouble. And the other interesting thing in the movie that isn't in the book is that one of Darius's men also gets onto the ship. And so closer to the end of the movie, they're actually trying to kill him and kill him for the money, saying, I saw the movie where
that one guy attacks him and he was on trial and they claimed it's self-defense or whatever. I saw that part in the movie.
Yeah, they were like,
I really went, like I told you, I went to the ending.
Yeah, you can't escape Darius Blank is basically, so even if you go off world. So I like that came back later in the movie. And this never comes back in the book.
Never comes back.
It's literally, problem solved. I'm off planet now.
Right. I just happen to die all the time. So
I just happen to die all the time. Okay, so then we go chapter 5.
All right. While you go through chapter 5, I will put you full screen and then I'll be back. I will be back by the time you get done so we can talk about chapter 5.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, well, Mickey 7 is about to go into the cycler, and Mickey 8 pulls him back up saying, this isn't right. I can't just stand here and watch you do this. So Mickey got a heart here where kind of Mickey 18 in the book would have, at the beginning, very much willing to push Mickey 17 down into the cycler. So Mickey has 2,000 calories a day ration card, and they plan to split that down the middle. And we learn that Commander Marshall, he doesn't like Mickey. Marshall found out a week after they boosted out of orbit that Mickey had the run-in with Darius Blank, and is interpreting that Mickey's a criminal and that a criminal has infiltrated his colony. We see throughout the book that Commander Marshall makes a lot of assumptions about Mickey that a lot of them aren't true, but Commander Marshall's an asshole. Like, he's such a dick in this book. He's very different in the movie, where like Marshall in the book is more military, more that kind of mindset, where he's an eccentric politician in the movie. So there's a little bit of difference between Commander Marshall book wise and movie wise. But we learned that Mickey and Nasha have been together since he was Mickey 3, and the Mickey decided to keep the fact that there are doubles a secret between just the two of them. Like I said, in the movie, like Nasha knows immediately that they're different, and like that gets shared with Nasha, whereas in the book they're like, we're gonna keep this a secret. And then we get this kind of cute thing about Mickey and Nasha's relationship, because Nasha's giggle is one of her best features. It's soft and delicate, and when she giggles, she has a tendency to look to the side and cover her mouth with her hand. The effect is so at odds with her whole badass combat pilot thing that it's almost like she becomes a different person. So again, we're talking about the personhoods and the differences that we have inside of us, just here with that little piece of writing about Nasha's laugh. So we got breakfast scene with Nasha and Berto, and Nasha's kind of telling Mickey, like, this is hard for me. When you die, like, it's very hard for me. I know you told me to leave you there, but I ended up crying all night, even though I knew that you were going to be reprinted. Like, it's hard for her. And then we have, like, Berto shows up, and it is funny to see. He's immediately getting caught in his lies, because Nasha's like, I was there. He froze to death. You saying a creeper got him, and so like you're already getting that Berto's having to change his story up multiple times, and he just keeps digging the hole deeper and deeper. And we also learned that the guard that Mickey 7 walked by to come back into the compound, that he pinged in at 8. Didn't pig in at 8:30, and that Mickey's like, I was like 8:15 when I walked by him and he let me in, and he is gone. So the creepers apparently got him. But Mickey can't reveal, oh, I saw Berto around that time, because like no one's supposed to know he was getting reprinted. No one's supposed to know Mickey 7 was alive because he froze to death. And then Mickey and Berto are called to Commander Marshall's office, but we don't know Berto's going to be there yet. We just get you need to arrive at this time. If you don't, you're going to be in trouble. Like, and it's different types of trouble that he's going to be in each time, but it's always just like, you need to do this. And Mickey 7 realizes that he has to share Nasha with Mickey 8. And that he kind of a little jealous about having to share his girl, even though it's with himself. So, but thoughts on all of chapter 5?
This is where we start the rock and the hard place that Mickey is in. That's kind of where we get into that, because it also brings out the fact that it's like, how many, again, it just highlights more of like, how many times has Berto effed me over? And he's just been lying to me the whole time. You figure out how much, just layering how much Nasha really does love Mickey in this book. We also finally get Marshall, who is very straightforward, a typical, Jack Nicholson. Sorry, that's Jack Nicholson is a golfer. Jack Nicholson, like from A Few Good Men, of just like, I am making these type of decisions, this type of natalist. They said something in the book, and I keep forgetting to look up exactly what they mean by natalist, but it's their basic political viewpoint of how they approach things.
It's their religion, and the natalist religion, which we'll get more into that there. is that everyone has one soul. So when you die, if you're reprinted, you don't have a soul anymore.
Gotcha.
So they don't like they're not fans of Expendables because there's like, oh, I got this soulless person walking around.
Yeah, but we also did. I don't know if we got into this because these are like the chapters that kind of everything kind of meshes together sometimes. But we also get. I lost my train of thought, but yeah, no, Nasha Berto at the breakfast table, you really get the whole relationship between the three. You're like, oh, cool, we're gonna be the three best friends, and then they kind of really don't touch on that group dynamic ever in the book after them all three sitting down, because then Mickey 7 and 8 have their whole little like making sure they don't get caught, even though they would, and Berto. But the scenes with Berto and Mickey at the marshal's office and Berto just being a stoic.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to them at the marshal's office yet. We just got the call to the marshal's office.
Sorry. So that's okay. We can get into that now. Yeah. And maybe the thought may come back to me. I'm jumping ahead.
We go into chapter 6. We get a flashback to the first time Mickey met Marshall, and we learned that he didn't allow for anyone to bring personal items with them on their one-way trip. This is also a different fact in the movie. That one of like the people in the movie brought like some tea with them. The cat character in the movie like gives Mickey some tea from Earth, but in this one, like, imagine you're on your ship, you think all your personal items, that you were allocated an amount of personal item, and then you're just immediately told, nope, no personal. So like any pictures, anything, and like even like Mickey, he doesn't say anything out loud, but he was just like, I could have just gotten stuff and put it in my pocket if we would have known this.
Right.
Like, but that they don't let them know until the last minute, so then they aren't able to get their things. It gives you more sense of like who this Commander Marshall is and how much of an asshole he is and how different he is from the movie. Because like I said, he's more militaristic in this book, where in the movie he's a Donald Trump figure in the movie. Like, just to not mince any words. But again, Commander Marshall, Natalist, and some of the passengers of the Drakkar, they consider the Natalist to be a cult. Others consider it a serious religion. We learned that a lot of people on the Drakkar, which is the spaceship they're on, are Natalists themselves. So you kind of have this like competing, where people on that ship, some of them are like highly religious people, part of this religion, and the other people are like, yo, they're in a cult. So that's an interesting dynamic that we don't really get a lot more in the book, and I would have enjoyed getting more of that, because that would be a rift on that ship, and we don't really get to see that being a rift as much on the ship, and that would have been cool to get more of that. We just get this little inkling here in chapter 6. And then so like just thoughts of like in this, we kind of learned a little bit about what the Natalists are in this, and just
also Mickey doesn't bite his tongue. He and Marshall doesn't like it at all. He doesn't like people questioning his authority or his rules. Definitely. And Mickey immediately just starts questioning. And so, but it sets the tone of why in the next chapter Marshall doesn't matter what Mickey says, it just irritates the hell out of him.
Yeah. But so we get that meeting, Commander Marshall, and Berto is there. Marshall is pissed because of the resources it takes to reboot Mickey. So anytime you get you have to reprint someone, that's a lot of protein, that's a lot of other things that could go towards feeding people. Now it's going towards creating a new Mickey, especially if you don't have the original body, because that's the best way to reprint, is just you take the dead body, you got all the things you need. But if you don't have the dead body with you, you got to use the resources you have. And we kind of learn throughout this book that they're running out of resources, which is funny in the movie when they're just like, oh, it takes so many calories to do this. They actually like limit people's activities so that way they're not they're not using too many calories, like running around or doing things, and they even put like a ban on sex and stuff in the movie because they're like, that expends too much calories.
Well, there's some things in this book that they would definitely be frowned upon,
right? But Marshall doesn't allow Berto to just call Mickey by his name when explaining the death. He's using the numbers. So like Mickey is never Mickey anymore. He's always Mickey with a number. Even at the beginning, he became Mickey 1 when he accepted the job. Even though like he hadn't died yet, he's now no longer just Mickey. He's a Mickey with a number behind him.
And Marshall always just says, "Mr. Barnes." Freaking book.
And then when explaining Mickey's death, Marshall interrupts Berto to have him clarify how he confirmed that Mickey's 7 bodies was not recoverable. He fell down a hole. The signal from his transporter was practically nil. And Marshall interrupts again, saying that Berto could have located him and retrieved him. And Mickey doesn't make it any better for Berto when he's like, that sounds pretty reasonable to me. So it's one of the few times where Mickey is on the side of the commander, even though the commander is not on Mickey's side at all.
He's on the side of the commander just because he finally
as
has
something
as a shitster, but he can finally one up something on Berto, who has basically been above him his whole life.
And Berto goes that by his judgment, it wasn't safe to retrieve him. And then like the book describes Mickey 7 being much, like I said, much farther down than in the movie. So that's why I was just like, you could have saved him. And then Marshall responds with, and yet you felt it safe enough to drop him there in the first place. Is that correct? And Mickey goes, yeah, what's up with that?
I was laughing. I giggled the whole time with just Mickey just being like, yeah, come on, man. Because again, he's Mickey 7, and no one, at least in those two guys, know that he is not Mickey 8.
Yeah.
Mickey 7.
So, everyone assumes he doesn't have the knowledge of what happened, even though he's there like, I got the knowledge. I'll be a little shit about it. And then we learn the people on Drakkar named the creatures creepers. In the movie, it's Marshall who's like, I'm going to call them creepers. Like,
I heard the movie is very over, like choose the scenery acting.
Yes, definitely when it comes to Marshall, it is. Everyone else acting is like just normal type of him and Toni Collette, like it's so over the top.
Straight out of Hunger Games is what it looked like to me.
Yes, definitely. And then this scene's not in the movie. Commander Marshall doesn't care about Mickey's reprinting in the movie. So yeah, like again, they're different. In the movie, he's like, oh, we'll just reprint it. Like there's no natalist, there's no nothing. He's just basically in the movie, Commander Marshall is a politician who lost, but who has this cult-like following. And it's supposed to, it's kind of like MAGA. It's trying to demonstrate that. And so then you put all of these MAGA people on a ship together is what the movie is conveying. Is like you have this leader and all of these like people that follow the leader, like the leader is God.
Right.
And it gets to the leader's head too, that they're just like very super eccentric. And then kind of Berto is just like, I didn't leave you to die, and Mickey's not trusting him there. And then he gives the like, I'm angry, Berto, because I live an extremely messed up life. Every so often I wake up in my bed, I'm hungover and covered in goo, and I realize that something horrible just happened to me, and I don't have any memory of what it was or why it happened or what I could possibly do to prevent it from happening again. And when that happens, I trust you and Nasha to fill me in, to tell me what happened. I have to trust you because I have no way to remember this stuff for myself. And now I know for a certain fact that you have lied to me about what happened at least once, and that leads me to wonder how many other times you've lied to me. Can you understand that? And you kind of feel that in the book that Berto does understand him still, but he's still protecting himself.
Yep.
But like you get a more of a level of understanding, I guess, and a level of like the friendship there than like you do in the movie. And then you kind of get the I've realized at this point I'm not painting Berto in a positive light. And And then you get this like sentiment here that like I kind of like, and it was shown on, because I read it on Kindle Unlimited, that it's one of the most highlighted lines in the book by people who've read it through Kindle Unlimited. Is, I've always believed it's important to accept the people in your life for what they are. There's no such thing as a perfect friend, or any more than there's any such thing as a perfect anything. And if you slag everyone in your life for the many and varied failings, you're going to miss appreciating the good stuff they bring to the table. So like thoughts on the meeting and thoughts of like the post meeting between them, and like that kind of, yeah, Berto has screwed me over and done all these things, but like he's still my friend, and like I'm not going to get rid of him because he still means something to me.
It's kind of a Stockholm syndrome type thing there, but it's still a great quote. And yes, we've all have friends that we've had riffs and tiffs with. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to the core of it, you realize if they're there for you or not. Even though Berto literally left him for dead, but he knew he was going to repeat it and all that stuff. And again, it's not Berto's fault that he bet against him. In that regard. So at the end of the day, we learned a little later on in the book, like Berto did stick up for Mickey, and Mickey stuck up for them, and brought them back to the marshal's office. So I understand where he's coming from, because the thing is it's very hard to find friends that are still there through thick and thin, through all the bull crap, even if they might have slighted you or not. Obviously, Nosh is Nosh situation, but Berto, like Mickey, obviously at the end of the day, he's been following Berto pretty much forever, according to the book. So, he could have easily, like, even when he was on Midgard or Earth or whatever you want to call it, at the original planet, like, he could have easily done something else, but he always stuck with Berto. And if Berto's always been this asshole to Mickey, why wouldn't Mickey have separated from him? This is the quote why.
Yeah. It shows you that there's more to the friendship that we aren't seeing, because we're just getting a moment in time between these two.
Yep.
And we learn a little bit more why Berto left him there, and it was out of fear.
Yeah. That was that. Yeah, we'll get into that one, because that was like when that happened in the book, of like why you get the reasoning of why Berto like has been lying and abandoning him the whole time. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he is that fragile.
Yeah. And like, and it's not even like, and you notice then it's not that he doesn't care about Mickey, it is that he was scared. Whereas like in the movie, Berto is just an asshole. Like he's just not a good friend at all.
Yeah, but when Mickey realizes that later on in the book, we'll get into that. But it's hilarious. Of like, Mickey's like, really? That's why? But from Berto's standpoint, because the book is written well enough for Berto, I'm like, I kind of understand it.
But chapter 8, I don't have much written here other than like flashback to training with Gemma. We get the ship of Theseus, which I think is perfect for this book, and also reminds me of Vision from the MCU. And then we get the graduation by having to shoot himself with a blank, even though he doesn't know that it's a blank. He thinks that he is killing himself in that moment. But
Gemma
that's the only
hates her job so much because she's so caring, but literally her whole job is to try and convince someone to kill themselves.
And we get from Gemma too that like, like most of these people are conscripts that were taken from the jails. They're criminals, so they're not good people to hang out with. But that Mickey was a good person to hang out with. Right. She enjoyed her time with him. And I love how like Mickey's even like, I thought we were going to have sex because that's how stupid I am.
Yep. Yeah, that's how dumb I am.
And I appreciated that. When you're just you're reading the room so wrong.
I just like the way that, because like yes, there's a lot of there's just a lot of plot holes that have left from what in this book, that not plot holes, but just a lot of things left unfinished. There's a lot of things that just weren't resolved as far as like characters and like and that whole thing. But at the end of the day, did he nail Mickey as a character? I mean, just the faults, and we get his dumb, ignorant brain, because we've all been that dumb, ignorant brain that overthinks things too much and is just trying to just roll with the changes that happen. And it's just tough to do. And this Mickey character is very relatable. Of just
super
like
relatable, yeah.
super relatable.
Yeah. And then we go into chapter 9. Marshall wants them to catch a creeper to understand what they are and what they can do. And then I wrote in parentheses, not to make sauce, because in the movie, Toni Collette, who plays Marshall's wife, we don't get her character at all.
No.
In this book. She wants to catch the creepers because she's obsessed with making a sauce, and she wants to make a sauce out of It's so dumb. It's so dumb. But Mickey goes out with a group and they're weighed down armor that they have to wade through the snow. Like Mickey was telling one of the guys, hey, don't wear the armor. Like, it's going to weigh you down. All you need is the snowshoes. And they were like, oh, we're not like you. Like, we're not coming back if we die. You have plot armor, basically. You don't need to wear real armor. We also learned that Mickey hasn't really formed relationships with anyone else on Drakkar other than Berto and Nasha. And we get to see the death of that Dugan, that's his name. We see the death of Dugan and two of the other security goons to the creepers, but they were able to capture a dead creeper. In the movie, only one person dies on this mission when they were going to go get the creeper, and it's a woman, and like Marshall is pissed because a female of breeding quality has died. That's the only reason why he's upset. It's just like, oh, we need women so that way they can have babies. Also, they captured a live creeper and that plays a hole into the ending of the movie, is that the creepers in the movie, they never attack the humans until they took the creeper baby, and it's just like, oh, you took my baby, and it becomes like a whole like Mother Nature thing of like, oh, we have to go and go get our own back. So in the book, the creepers kill, where in the movie, the creepers are actually like these gentle creatures that are on the outside, but the humans are scared of them because they don't know what they are. So it's a much different type of message.
Well, I mean, in the book, they are. I mean, Marshall is scared because they don't know who they are. Nikki is the in between.
But in the book, the creepers still kill some of the humans. Where like in the book, they're not killing anyone, not yet.
Yeah, it's like the toy soldier situation.
So yeah, thoughts on that mission and losing a few people to the creepers?
It was more of the introduction of the female guard.
Cat
was really Cat. It was this section was all about Cat and why Cat is so loyal to Mickey throughout the rest of the book, even though she's not at one point, but you understand why too, because she falls for him, and then some weird shit happens when she walks in on that room. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, but. Go into chapter 10. Getting sent on a near suicide mission like Marshall's snipe hunt is pretty much routine for me at this point. Getting rescued, on the other hand, is not. That part is a little disorienting, is what we get from Mickey. It's kind of like we're reading Mickey's diary when you're with this book, except we don't get any dates or times, or we're not even told like, oh, this is a flashback. You just have to get it through the context clues when you're in those chapters. We learn about their trip from Midgard to Niflheim, and that it took a long time for anything bad to happen, that he got a false sense of hope he would make it to Niflheim without having to go through getting reprinted. In the movie, Bong Joon-ho went straight to killing him. Like again, he's Mickey 17, and we see him die a lot. The last thing I remember about life in this body I was born with is a technician slipping the upload helmet over my head as my arms and legs spasmed and blood seeped out of my mouth and nose and pulled under my blistering skin. That sounds absolutely terrible. And this was a year into the mission to Niflheim, and Mickey was supposed to train 2 hours a day with different departments on the ship so he could serve as a stopgap for any of them as need arose. However, a lot of the folks who should have been training him thought he was spooky for being an expendable, and some people, like the engineers, were busy doing their actual jobs and didn't have time to train him. So his 2 hours a day of training turned into more like 2 hours a week. So he was chilling. And he was just like, I'm chilling. I haven't died yet. Things are good. Until he does die. When Trekar was hit by a space object and created a hole in part of the ship, Mickey was stuffed into a vacuum suit and went to work replacing a power coupling unit. And if he could, bring back the old unit, because he was definitely going to die from radiation, which he did. He was also able to replace the unit, but there was still a hole in the ship. So he's reprinted as Mickey 2 and then put immediately back into the situation, knowing that he's going to die again and become Mickey 3. He was shoved back in the vacuum suit, sent to the hull with the tank full of high-density emergency patch nanites and 5 minutes worth of directions on how to use them. He filled the hold with the nanites and then died, and Mickey 3 was born. So thoughts on kind of him chilling and thinking, oh, things might not be so bad, and then like getting two deaths back to back.
Yeah, this chapter was all about just letting the reader know, and also Mickey know just what he actually signed up for.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, he's expendable. What a perfect word to describe that job.
Yeah. We go into chapter 11, and Marshall, he's pissed off in this book all the time. Pissed that 3 people died and Mickey wasn't one of them. Mickey goes, "You're right, sir. I apologize for surviving. I'll try to do better next time."
Mr. Barn. Again, full disclosure, people, I listen to the audiobook. So I'm every time she's going through this stuff, I'm just listening to the person who was doing it. And he had this, like, when he did for Marshall, he always just, "Mr. Barnes, I told you." Yeah, that's how he kind of read his dialogue.
Marshall, a little bit of dick, threatens to kill Mickey if Mickey doesn't give him a good answer as to why he survived the mission. "Well, sir, we were sent out there for a reason. You ordered us to retrieve a creeper. Given what happened to Torselli and Gallagher, we were all very much aware that this was a hazardous sortie, but you decided that we should attempt it anyway. Therefore, I concluded that doing what we were sent out there to do was our first priority. By the time we realized what was happening to Mr. Dugan, it was my judgment that there was nothing we could have done to help him. Therefore, I decided to put my efforts into accomplishing the mission, which I will note I succeeded in doing." So again, he's like, I did what you asked, which a lot of the times too, Marshall gets pissed off about something when he's the one that put Mickey in the situation for the thing to happen. And it's just like, it's your fault, my guy. And we learned that they began the expedition with 198 people, landed with 180. They're now down to 175. Well, actually 176, because we got Mickey 8.
We'll get that later on.
And then Marshall makes an assumption that Kat, who survived the mission with Mickey, has a pre-existing relationship with Mickey, and that is why he's still alive, which this kind of came out of nowhere in the book, where like, and kind of that came up a little sexist, because like, oh, the only reason that you saved him was because you have a thing for him, which that's not really how it came across in the book at all. In the movie, Kat does have a thing for Mickey, but like you learn that much earlier on. You haven't learned any of that yet in the book, so that's it. It just
that was one issue I had with this book, is because we present, which I like that I said it before earlier in our review. I like the fact that they presented Nasha as like, all right, you're in love. This is your girlfriend. Typically, we don't have that for the love interest, but then you highlight Kat and all of her struggles of her and her feelings of Mickey in this book, and Nasha's still there. But they don't really flesh out until the very end of the book just how much and why Mickey will never
leave Nasha.
He will always stay with Nasha, but you just have so much of that middle section of this book where it's all about Kat and Mickey.
Yeah, and even too, you can kind of argue. You can argue, some people, like, you can maybe see a romantic part of it, but you can also argue that there's not a romantic thing to it. Like the night that they spend together. Mickey is like holding her because her roommate just died and she can't fall asleep unless she's being held. Yeah. That's didn't come off as romantic to me. That came more as like I need a human being in my presence, because there used to be a human being in this room and now there's not one. Yeah. And so in the moments, like, you can read them off as not being romantic. And then as a shipper, you can read them as being romantic. So you could decide for yourself reading the book.
But I did say that the whole time. I'm like, don't do it, Mickey. You have a good one going with Nasha. Like, and they just was like, hey, you're again, like I'm saying, like, that's how good I enjoyed the book, because, like I said, haven't watched the movie, guys. Haven't watched the movie. This is just my interpretation of the book. And the whole time I'm like, do not cheat on Nasha. And they hardly really go into detail until after the whole cat stuff of how much and why Mickey
and Nasha. Yeah. When you get those flashbacks much earlier as why, like, Nasha is her, because like you hear him say in the book earlier, like, oh, Nasha got me out of my funk kind of thing, but you don't ever get the real, like, reason why they're so much
until the third act of
the book, which, like, I don't understand why it came so late, but it is what it is. And then, like I said, in the movie, she does have a crush on Mickey, and we get moments showing that through the film. We haven't really got it, as we said, haven't really got any of that to me personally in the book. We get our first what it's like to be reanimated question from Kat, and he answers her, which is kind of funny because in the movie, like, people are asking him all the time, oh, what's it like to die? What's it like to and he's just like, like, but we don't get any of that in the book.
If Robert Pattinson's telling them, it's going to be immaculate, because I don't care that he played a vampire in a terrible movie. Robert Pattinson's an amazing actor.
He's an amazing actor. And Kristen Stewart also is an amazing actor. Like, they just were in bad vampire movies. Nasha shows up while Mickey and Kat are having dinner, and Kat asks her the same thing she asked Berta. Did she pick up anything before the creepers hit them? And Nasha says she didn't. So we get even, like, Kat is not trusting Berta. We get that feeling. So it's like, oh, we got to check with Nasha real quick. Mickey 7 is having a recurring dream, and that is why he hasn't been uploading his consciousness. In the dream, he is back on Midgard, out in the woods camping. He hears a noise like someone clearing their throat. He looks up, and there's a giant caterpillar sitting across the fire from him. The caterpillar and him try to talk. The caterpillar mouth moves and sound comes out that sounds like words, but Mickey can't make any sense of them. Mickey tries to get the caterpillar to slow down so he can understand it, but the caterpillar doesn't, and listening starts to make Mickey's head ache. Mickey looks to the fire, and he says, running backwards, unburning the pile of sticks it's feeding on and sucking smoke back out into the air. When Mickey looks back up, the caterpillar is fading until only the smile remains, and then that eventually disappears, which that seems frightening. Then he slid into a real dream where he is Mickey 2 and he's dying from radiation poisoning. So thoughts on this chapter 11, the meeting with Marshall, the dinner with Kat, and the caterpillar dream.
All right. So with the meeting with Marshall, this I laugh so much about how much of a smartass Mickey is and just doesn't care, because what's going to happen? He's going to just come back anyway. Like, so he just like, I don't care. Like, and also he's right the whole time. And Marshall, the whole book is just like until the end. But Marshall, the whole book, realizes like you were saying, like, he realizes it's probably his fault for putting Mickey in this situation. Mickey calls him out on it, but for the sake of his ego, he has to still be right. So that's what we get a lot of times when someone calls him out on stuff. He just gets pissed off because they're right, but he still has to maintain his authority in that situation. Cat, we kind of already touched on that. As far as the meeting, that Cheshire cat type of thing freaks me the hell out, even just listening to it. And at first I was going toward, like, further along the book, I'm like, oh, that has more meaning to it. But this had me straight up with man, Mickey, is there peyote on this ship? Because that is such a trip of a dream.
And apparently, like, there's no alcohol or drugs on this. And we kind of learn earlier in the book that Marshall, one of the days that he had a sick day and Mickey had to like cover for him, is because he tried to make his own alcohol. Yeah. Where in the movie, Marshall definitely has alcohol with him.
Right. Right. So yeah, that's what I got on that one.
But yeah, that dream was wild. We go to chapter 12 and we get the Mickey 2 was my shortest lived instantiation. Mickey 3 was my longest. So we kind of we learn about him having to deal with the death of Mickey 1 and Mickey 2, and him like not remembering but having to watch it, and him being like in a depression funk. And then he knew who Nasha was, because like when you have less than 200 people, like you kind of know everyone but you don't know people. And so like him like meeting her for real, and that kind of bringing him out of his depression funk. And then we also learned the term ghost chaser. So there's a lot of natalists on board, and to a natalist, sleeping with an expendable is some serious forbidden fruit. And Mickey, it kind of like Nasha was like, "Oh, how many have you slept with for like?" And the kind of he himself doesn't know that they were ghost chasers until Nasha lets him know about this term, and that like, oh, they're trying to get with him because
it's kink.
It's kink. Even though, like, in their religion, they're sleeping with someone who they think doesn't have a soul.
Yep. Yeah. That's yeah. And that hey, red light. The red light district in Amsterdam probably touched on this before, so I'm just
So we also get that there's not a lot to do activity-wise on the ship when you're dating. So Mickey and Nasha just mostly bang.
Yeah, I like that in the book. It was like, there's not a lot to do here. So me and Nasha's relationship, we just banged. Like literally, that's word for word in the book of how it's described. It was just like, yeah, we just banged.
And I was just like, fair enough. We learned that. And then this is something that we get in the book that we do not touch at all in the movie. We learned that Nasha's parents were immigrants to Midgard from New Hope. Given the colossal expense and time required to get anywhere in the Union, it is rare for anyone other than a beachhead colonist to say they have traveled from one planet to the other. And then you wouldn't think a place like Midgard would be hard on immigrants. It's not like we didn't have the room or resources to take in a few hundred lost souls. You'd be wrong, though. Humans are tribal, and the refugees' accents were enough to mark them as outsiders, even setting aside the fact that the majority of them had skin a few shades darker than most of Midgard's original population. They hadn't been on Midgard for a month before anonymous articles started popping up on the feeds arguing that they were carriers for whatever lunacy had engulfed New Hope family, and that if they were allowed to insinuate themselves into our social and political life, they dragged Midgard down the same path. The government set them up with basic stipends and places to live, but right from the jump, it was almost impossible for them to find real jobs. 2 years after they landed, a few dozen of them staged a sit-in that turned into a protest, that turned into a minor riot. After that, they had a hard time even getting their kids admitted into general school. So, like, Nasha never really speaks about her childhood with Mickey, but Mickey just, through knowing this and then also being like a historian and liking to read and all that stuff, like he just knows this about her. And even though Nasha was born and raised on Midgard, one night she told Mickey, goes, Midgard was never my home. It was never going to be this place where we're going, though. So like she has hope for a better life at Niflheim before ever reaching there. And then when they landed on the ice planet of Niflheim, Mickey pulled Nasha close and said, this is doable. Old Earth was like this once just before life took off. There's plenty of water here and an oxygen, nitrogen atmosphere. That's all we really need. So kind of just like you're getting the hope of this relationship on this new planet. You're learning about this thing that exists in the real world for us now about refugees. So thoughts on just learning about Nasha's backstory?
As far as I know, Mickey used it against her. Okay. He took advantage of someone who went through a lot of trauma. No. Mickey and Nasha's relationship is not that. So if anyone read that and thought that this was him taking advantage of her going through, trauma of just never being accepted, that's not it. It's just because he actually can understand what she's going through in a sense of because he knows about it, not because he lived it, because he knows about it. So he always wants to make. So to me, he was more comforting to her because he read the struggles that she went through, and so that's why, from her being the outsider the whole time, he was the first one to be accepting of
and
her.
compassionate.
And compassionate. So I don't think it was him. You can definitely spin it depending on which social media outlet you're on. You can spin it of him just being just a guy taking advantage of a female who's going through a traumatic event, that whole thing. No, that's not how this was depicted in the book, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I found it to be very sweet.
Yes.
I was just like, oh, Mickey.
Yes. Yeah. Mickey cares, guys.
Mickey cares.
And he's a smart ass. So the whole time I'm like, oh, I can relate to this guy, except for I don't like dying 7 times.
Well, he doesn't either.
6.5.
But we go to chapter 13. We learn more about New Hope and why their colony failed. So this is the colony that Nasha's parents were from. New Hope failed 25 years after their initial beachhead was established, mostly from a short, brutal civil war between the remaining colonists and the first wave of New Hope born that wrecked most of the infrastructure. They still ended in order to survive the semi-hostile planet. A group of refugees, all from the younger cohort, managed to boost up the original colony ship and fly it to Midgard. And we kind of get a sense throughout some of these chapters, Mickey's just learning about failed colonies because it's kind of like, I just want to know what's the worst that can happen. So he's just constantly reading about failure. And then kind of Mickey always assumed the Civil War was fought over kind of stuff most civil wars are fought over: race, religion, resources, political philosophies, etc. But it was actually fought over the question of whether the native corvid-like avian species was sentient and therefore deserving of protection and respect, or delicious and therefore deserving of a spicy dry rub and an hour on the grill. So,
that one line is why Toni Collette's character is what she is in the movie. Yeah. According to you, like I said,
gotta make some sauce.
Some sauce.
And then Mickey, Seven, and Kat go on patrol together. Mickey has a theory that the creepers are after their metal. And then Kat shares with Mickey that them coming to Niflheim is bullshit. It was supposed to be habitable, but it really isn't. She's like, kind of like, oh, we got some bad intel here. And and because he's reading about all of these failed colonies, he's like, it could be worse, but he's thinking that, but he has enough self-awareness to know, like, yeah, I shouldn't say that out loud. But hey, it could be worse. And then on their rounds, Mickey catches a glimpse of 2 stick figure humans staring back at him, and they're disappearing in the pixelated snow. I feel like this is more of like he's so hungry that he's seeing things.
This is a mirage.
This is a mirage, definitely. And then only the creepers were natives on this planet in the movie. So like I was just like, at first I was like, wait, are there other things other than creepers? But then we found out later on, like, no, this is his hungry brain seeing things. And then Mickey wakes up in a medical bay and is told he fainted out on patrol. Again, probably because he's not getting enough food. The creepers were coming for him and Kat, but then stopped. They like Mickey. They're not going to kill him. And then Kat reveals that there was a giant creeper like the one that saved Mickey and that she killed it. So thoughts on learning, again, a little bit more about New Hope and then just him and Kat patrolling.
I mean, it's just, again, I like the fact that they were saying, oh, I'm a historian. That's a useless job. But it's that one thing about him being historian is so essential to why Mickey is giving us every exposition it is, because that's what he's into as a character. So you're actually,
and it gets to his thoughts on the creepers too,
right, as well. So that whole just him just being saying, oh, it's useless. Well, it's not useless for the book. It doesn't become useless as we go along, because he actually can then communicate, as we know later on, with the creepers, because he does a deep dive into, again, thing with Nasha. It's kind of the same thing. It's like he read about Nasha and them as far as their immigrants and all of that and the troubles they went through, so it can be relatable. It's the same thing as he looks into the creepers and all that, and Kat's just doing her job.
Yeah. And it's part of like his interest in history is what is able to help him make decisions in the here and now. And we talk about all these things like if you don't learn your history, you're bound to repeat it. And I feel like
learn from your mistakes, guys.
This world is so like, oh, we have everything at our fingertips. Why the hell should I ever like have to have a historian when I can just Google it? Basically, it's just like, no, you need people like this to be able to like know what kind of things you need to do. Right. So like, oh, has this situation ever happened before? What were the outcomes of the situation? What can happen if I try to do this again or do something different or anything? And it's just like we have that kind of in the real world of people not appreciating those types of people that have that knowledge and then try to suppress that history as well. So yeah. Mm-hmm. And we go to chapter 14. Berto ended up winning some like call it credits, rations, whatever, to buy Mickey a real meal because from betting on whether he could fly through a really small gap in a set of rocks. So, and we kind of find out Berto did this because he was bored.
Yep.
But then he was just like, but I can also bet. And maybe I can eat, because both him and Mickey's rations were reduced by Commander Marshall. And Mickey's pissed off at him that he would risk his life for this stunt, but not to save him. Berto is having suspicions about Mickey and whether he actually just came out of the tank. So you're getting him, you're getting Nasha, you're getting Kat like, wait, you guys aren't the same person. Mm-hmm. Mickey comes in for backup, and the last thing he remembers is a taser pressed against the back of his neck. And then they end up in Marshall's office again, which just happened. They're always at the principal's office. Berto, the security officers involved were upset about the consequences of their own poor judgment, and one of them decided to work out his frustrations by assaulting an innocent bystander. And then Marshall asked, but why Mr. Drake is in the medical bay and that Berto is fine, and Berto answers, I said he assaulted me. I didn't say he did a good job of it. And Mickey lays out the order of events, and Marshall begrudgingly confirms that the video surveillance backs up their claims. And then Marshall does get Berto on the flight risk he performed and decides to increase Berto's workload and cut his rations even more. And he goes, oh, Barnes, I don't know what your involvement in this incident was, but on the presumption that you probably had something to do with it, which he had nothing to do with it, I'll be reducing your rations by 5% as well. And then when Mickey protests, he raises it to 10%. And remember, the rations are being shared between two people, and one just came out of the printer, and so he has an empty stomach. Like, so it's not good for Mickey.
No. This is just Marshall just being a natalist and not liking who Mickey is as an expendable, but also because Mickey always questions his authority. So anytime that he can get a one-up on Mickey and show him that, hey, just quit back-talking me the whole time, he's going to do it. Also, Berto winning that bet and Mickey being like, really, didn't save me, but Berto didn't know that. So, I'm not going to sit there and defend Berto, but in the book, and from Berto's standpoint, he didn't know that Mickey's not Mickey's the guy that he left for dead. He just knows him as the other, he doesn't think that he's known that. And I really like Berto was kind of a badass when it came to this meeting with Marshall.
Yeah.
Like the whole time he's just staring at the wall, and Marshall would go through his thing and he just kind of like, okay, self-defense, look at the tape.
Yeah.
He was like, and because Marshall knew it, but he still wanted to condemn them.
Yeah.
And then when Berto would not back down on it, he would not back down. And then then Marshall was like, yeah, so we had the security camera. We showed them that he walked up on you all. He approached you all, and he was the one to put his hands on Berto first. I'm like, okay, I see how the diplomacy is in this on this.
Like you could have just said that first. Why are you asking questions if you know? Asking all them questions.
I have some questions. I was like, okay, Marshall. This was when we first realized, like, Marshall here's his agenda. Yes, he's a dick. And he's going to protect the people that he protects, and is going to try and throw in everybody else under the bus to protect the following that he has. Now, do we get that really resounding into anything for the rest of the book? No. But we at least get that in this chapter.
We just know that it's really just like, oh, he's just being a dick for dick's sake, like in the book. Yeah.
But at first this chapter, I thought that, he was just trying to do this just to like show his dominance towards a certain people in the dome. And I realized, no, he's just being a dick.
Yeah. And where like his character in the movie, like I said, is so different, but like we understand why he is the way he is and the things that he does, and we get so much more background into him as a character, which is so funny that like a movie has more background into a character than a book does. But it is interesting that we just get like, oh, he's just an asshole in the book. That's just his character. So we go to chapter 15. Mickey 8 kind of a little pissed off at Mickey 7 because their rations are reduced again, and Mickey 7 says to blame Berto. And really, I feel like their blame should be towards Marshall, not towards Berto in that moment. Because, like, yeah, Berto did do the thing, but Marshall could have just let it slide as well. And Marshall's just being Marshall's being a dick about it because he wasn't part of it.
Nope. Yeah, anytime he can be, just Marshall's just being a dick.
But since Berto got all of Nasha's shifts, Nasha is free to hang, and Mickey 8 tells Mickey 7 that he gets to hang with Nasha because of the whole rations thing. And like Mickey 7's like not having it. That's his girl. And then
never seen someone get jealous of themselves.
Yeah, he's so jealous of himself. Mickey 7 calls Mickey 8 a big baby and says it's been bad for both of them. And there's nothing I remember about Tank Funk that makes us extra horny, and threatens to go to Marshall's office to settle this for good. And Mickey is like, you think this is a sex thing? And like Mickey 7's like, yes. And Mickey is like, I'm too tired to have sex. Like, I'm just wanting Nasha to feed me.
Right. That's what it is.
That's all it is, right? But I actually believe him in this moment. I when they have their later thing, that's different. But I actually do think that it's like I'm just.
At first, hungry. I did, and then the later thing happened. I was like, oh,
okay. We learn about the first colony from Earth that was named Eden, but that no one knows that the mission that dropped the beachhead on Eden was the second attempt. So the first attempt actually never made it. And we get a little bit more about that in this chapter. And then we have, because Mickey 8 is with Nasha, Mickey 7's like, where should I go? So he goes to the food hall, and then he realizes, oh wait, they're going to get food. We can't have both of us here at the same time. And then he ends up going to the gym because no one goes to the gym at all. And we kind of like learned that Commander Marshall put a gym there because typically those ships don't have a gym, but that he's like, physical fitness is important. Right. And then like literally no one goes to the gym at all. It's like we don't get enough calories in to work out.
Right.
And but so he's like, oh, I'll be able to be alone there. It'll be great. He walks in, Kat's there. And we learn that like Kat is in the gym because her roommate just died on that mission, and she doesn't want to be in that room by herself. And then we kind of just get the moment where we talk about like a little bit earlier that Mickey ends up staying the night with Kat because it's an available bed. Right. and it's so that way Kat's not alone. So thoughts.
Yeah, that just it's so weird about the gym and that cat's there and all that other stuff. But no, this was pretty much more about Eden and the progression of we're just trying to make this Cat and Mickey conundrum happen. So this was it moved it along, but it really didn't do much on this chapter for me.
I kind of saw it as because they did have like a little bit of their conversation was Mickey when she was like, Gillian died, and Mickey's like, who?
Right.
And then there's like, oh, we're just goons to you. And Mickey was just like, no, that's not it's like, it's not you guys, it's me. Like, you people, half the ship either thinks I'm a demon, and the other half of the ship is fetishizing me. So I kind of just stick away from everyone, so I don't remember people's names, and I'm not hanging out with people. So like, don't take anything of it.
That's a good point, because there's a couple times later on the book he's like, oh yeah, I actually remember him because of this one thing. Like,
yeah.
So that's a good point. Good point.
The reason I like this is just like, you can see even someone like her who is not fetishizing him and who doesn't think he's a demon, it still doesn't see him correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And it is misunderstanding him and thinking that they probably think, oh, you think you're better than all of us because you can come back. Whereas that's not the case at all. The case is just like, oh yeah, y'all hate me, so I just stick to myself.
Right.
Then we go Chapter 16. Mickey 8 reported to duty with the agriculture division, and Mickey 7 went to grab a bite to eat with Kat. Kat invites Mickey to come hang out with her later that night when she gets off her shift. And then Mickey 8 tells Mickey 7 in the room not to screw around with Nasha, with Kat, and Mickey 7 goes, yeah, I agree. Like, yeah. I'm not screwing. So it's the first, you don't get the reason why, but that's the first time you hear Mickey 7 like going, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So that's not much more happens in this chapter. No. Anything you want to say?
No, we kind of already touched upon the fact that he's always loyal to Nasha. We just didn't know why until further in the book.
Yeah. Chapter 17, we learn about the people's aversion to multiples by learning about Alan Manikova. I wrote a lot in here, but like, yeah, the stuff with Alan Manikova, I'm sure you could have something to say. That was crazy, that story.
Yeah, it was super crazy. This reminds me, did you ever read The Watchmen? Did you ever read that graphic novel? Okay. So you know how like there's this whole book that's going on, this narrative, but then they just span it to this other book about the pirate ship and all that stuff. This chapter about Alan Manikova was the most exposition, like over
story about another person. Yeah,
story about another person, and it's also foreshadowing and like all this other stuff of like Alan Manikova is what happens when the civilization flies too close to the sun. Yes. That's what Alan Manikova is. Now, some people, when I was going over this chapter, some people may relate it to a certain other person who owns space companies and other companies and that are tied into the stock market. That if he decided to just sell everything, I don't think it would cripple the economy. But that was the first thing there. Now, do I think he would do what Alan Manikova did? No. Not to that extent of just literally wanted to be like the emperor of the galaxy,
the emperor of yourself too.
Right. Just I am going to exist only by myself, by multiple. Yeah. But this was a long ass chapter of some intertwining sci-fi craziness that really basically just comes to the point of this is why people don't like multiples.
Yeah. And I really like this chapter. I like this one. This is one of the things where I was like, oh, this is better than the movie. Because in the movie, Alan Manikova is just like, he's a genius and a sociopath, just like he is in the book. But the difference is he is a serial killer in the movie. And so he has multiples and he goes out and kills people. And then when they try to like frame him, he has an alibi and no one knows that he's multiples. He has an alibi. He's like, I wasn't there to kill that person. And so like he gets away with it for a really long time until they figure out that he has multiples. And then it becomes a whole philosophical debate of like, if you have a multiple and if the multiple kills, are both to blame? Do both of them go to jail, or only does one of them go to jail? How do you determine which one of them did it? Because they have the exact same DNA. And so it became this whole huge philosophical debate in the movie. So I liked that aspect of the movie where it really went into the philosophy of multiples, but I liked this story more in the book where it really just went real balls to the wall crazy.
Yeah, it was like, he was just a genius. He did all this stuff. It was great. And then he was like deuces because they thought he was going to do more exploratory things. And like,
I like learning about that planet too, about just a planet of rich assholes.
Yeah. And then you also get the fact of like just how big the universe is in this book. Was also in this chapter of like, well, he's about to take this over, and when the civilization he's about to take over sends the beacon, well, it takes 7 years to get them, and then we get a little bureaucracy in there, be like, well, it took them 2 years to deliberate what they were going to do before they even get there, and then it takes all this time. So this was all about exposition and world building, and I enjoyed the
bullet too.
Yeah,
we learn about the bullet, which is very Death Star like. Basically, if you do something along these lines, if it's something that is going to be detriment to all the other planets that are part of the Union, we are going to blow that planet up.
Yeah,
Alderaan style.
This is you know, I mean, there's so many like Marvel things that happen to this. It's like, oh, he's got like King the Conqueror like type thing. Like, oh, all these variants of him that that, you know, obviously that's different timelines where he literally just multiplied himself in this one. And then you have, you know, the super genius of like a Tony Stark. But what if Tony Stark becomes evil because he had all this military weaponry, like you said, the bullet and everything that he developed. And they didn't know about it until when they went to confront him, and they were like, oh, we just thought he was just living like, you know, Thanos after he conquered the world. Like, no. If you go too close to him, he will Dr. Doom you and blow you off the planet. But they figured it.
And they were worried. It was just like, oh, he's going to now go to another planet.
Right. So they basically just like, all right, well, let's do Oppenheimer on his ass at that point.
Let's do Death Star on his ass.
Yeah, let's do Death Star Oppenheimer on his ass.
But bye-bye, Alderaan.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't Alderaan at that point.
Nah. There we go. Chapter 18, Mickey 7 and Kat decide to meet at the gym again, and Mickey 8 tells him to be careful because something's off about Kat. And then we kind of see a little bit of the weird messages coming through on the comms for Mickey.
That's when the cryptic messaging. I'm like, okay, is he because he's, you know, sick, you know, like he's malnourished, so he starts to. Anyway, go ahead.
Is he typing in his sleep?
Right.
And then later in the story, I was just like, "Ooh, did Mickey 6 survive?"
That's what I was thinking. I was like, "Oh, did Mickey 6 survive?"
Yeah, and then it was never that cool at the end.
Nope. We got the Coen brothers situation.
But then Kat notices that Mickey 7's hand is messed up, but Mickey 8's hand is perfectly fine, and that's how she knows that there's 2 of them. Kat asks Mickey if he's the same person who boarded the shuttle, and Mickey answers that he remembers all of Mickey 1's memories as if they happened to him, but does that mean that he is Mickey Barnes? He doesn't know. And then we have, like, in the movie, the Mickeys are, like I said, were slightly different from each other, and so yeah, it is kind of funny to see, like, because they're so similar in this book, it is more of that conversation of, like, are you the same, kind of like is a little bit more interesting, where in the book, like, they clearly aren't. In the movie, they clearly aren't. And then Kat kisses him on the cheek and leaves, saying to tell the other Mickey, I said hello. And then when Kat finds out in the movie that they're multiple, this is the funny part. And Nasha already knows, Kat's just like, okay, you can have Mickey 8. I'll have Mickey 7. We can share Mickey. I'll have one of them. You have the other. And Nasha's like, hell no. They're both my mans.
Yeah, in this book, she definitely claimed both of them.
And then Mickey 7 walks in on naked Nasha and Mickey 8, and we learn that Mickey 8 told Nasha the truth. When Mickey 7 asked Mickey 8, what's he doing? Nasha answers, what 8 is doing is stealing away your woman. What are you going to do about it? And then the next 2 we get the next 2 hours are weird. I don't think I want to talk about them. Just to be clear, though, I regret nothing.
Yeah, that line. I'm glad you put that line in there, because it was just like, it was like the way that the narrator read the book. He would just, there was a small silence, so she was like, "What are you going to do about it?" The next 2 hours are weird. I regret, and the narrator goes, "I regret nothing. Like he said it in that exact tone. So I just kind of chuckled. I was like, man, it just reminded me like the ludicrous lyric of like, you got a lady in the street, but a freak in the bed. Like, but for Nasha's standpoint, you got a badass in the streets and a freak in a bed, because she was badass in this book. Just because of how much she was stood by Mickey the whole damn
both
time.
Of them.
Yes, both of
them. And then the big question here, Josh, would you have sex with yourself?
Can we move on? I don't not to lie, I was like, wait, so this is the weirdest threesome I've ever read in a book ever.
And then Kat walks in on the three of them post-sex. What are you doing, Mickey? And then this is my favorite line. Nasha, what does it look like? Get in or get out?
Right.
Jen, either way, close the door. And then Kat runs out the door, and the next morning security comes to the rooms, and they're still naked.
Because Kat's heartbroken.
Yeah. She could have joined. She was invited to join.
No. She doesn't. She doesn't like sharing the same person. Literally.
But yeah, thoughts.
Oh, this one, I was not expecting this. This is not what I signed up for. It was interesting.
I was waiting for it because it happens in the movie. So I was like, ooh, when's the threesome going to happen in the book?
Yeah. No, like when that happened, and then like they walked in, and then she would just like, all right, what's better than one Mickey? Two Mickeys.
Yeah, it happens earlier in the movie than in the book. And then she also, like, she takes her lipstick and puts 17 on one of their chests and 18 on the other.
Just some horny people in this world, man. Horny people.
And then chapter 19, we get a flashback. And this is where we get the exposition about Nasha and how much she loves him, and that like
she held his hand and like comforted him as he was literally
and helped
dying.
him as he's dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where was this 17 chapters ago?
Right. They'll go chapter 20, Mickey 7 and 8 meet in Marshall's office, where we just spend a bunch of time. Marshall calls them monsters and says that they're both going in the cycler, and the only decision he has to make is if there's going to be a ninth one of them. And then we learn the creepers are not exactly biological, very different from the movie. They're some sort of hybrid meal tech. This never really comes into play at all. Kind of just, it feels like in the book it's not really coming into play that there's tech. They're just creatures. And then we get fun fact, it turns out we do have a jail. And thoughts on kind of just like this part of the beginning of Marshall catching them and all of that.
I just like the fact of Nasha and Mickey looking at that, and the doctor. This is the most useless doctor in all of books that I've ever read, because the whole time he's like, it could be a tumor, and then they finally like, oh, is that a tumor? No, it's not a tumor. What is it? Oh, it's a parasitic brain worm that's eating your brain. It's cool.
Yeah.
And like him describing it made my head hurt. Describing the worm just eating
like,
his brain.
No, I don't want that happening to me.
Nope, I'll pass.
Yeah, that's a worm eating out part of your brain. Not good.
Yeah, and is that the chapter where that after studying what Mickey brought in from the creeper that they realized that they're sentient? Is it just this chapter?
Let's see. We'll go. The next.
No, it's chapter 20. I think it was chapter 20.
And then chapter 21 goes, Mickey 7 is wondering what happened to Mickey 6 because he does not trust Birdo's Accord. So, like, he's still wondering, like, what the hell happened to 6, man? And that's where I was thinking, 6 is alive! And that never happened. We get the weird messages on Mickey's comm again and learn that it's neither Mickey 7 or 8. And they're brought to the cycler. Marshall says he has some questions, and Mickey 8 is like, for shit's sake, just do it already. Like, kind of like, just stop dicking around, man. And then Marshall says that there will be no more Mickey, that Kat has volunteered to be the colony's new expendable. Way different than the movie. Stuff does not happen. Kat tries to say she is sorry, and Nasha tells her to shut the fuck up. And then Marshall says that they can avoid going down the hole if they agree to do a mission.
So, my thoughts on this. Sorry, someone came in here and distracted me. But yeah, Marshall was just at his wit's end with Mickey at this point. And Nasha's standing by her guy. She's through it for thick and thin. And but you just knew it was going to come to a head where we realized that exactly what happened as far as the third act, or not the climax, I guess. This is exactly where it was going, because Mickey 8 was just like, hey, we can just, whatever happens to us, you can just redo it again. And Marshall was like, tired of you, Barnes. I'm done. I'm like super done with you. Like, you're going to be dead.
And then it is interesting to see, like, this is where the movie and the book diverge a lot. So, like, up until, like, this point of, like, Act 3, the stuff is very similar. They're a little bit, like, out of order from each other, book-wise and movie-wise. But then, like, Act 3, as we talked about, like, in our non-spoiler, like, in the book is very anticlimactic. It's not so in the movie. Then we get chapter 22. We learn about the bubble war on Earth. So this is some, like, more fun stuff of, like, background stuff that we do not get at all in the movie. And we learn about the antimatter, like, genociding.
This is with the biggest foreshadowing chapter, because I'm like, why are you talking about all these type of military things? I wonder why, because they just brought in 7 and 8 who know they're multiples. I'm like, and they know about the creepers and they know they're sentient, so they're a bigger threat and we're at war. And they talk about all this, like, antimatter and type of weaponry. I'm like, oh, I wonder what's gonna happen.
Yeah, you have that, and then I love too in this chapter talking about human nature, and then also about how they ostracized Earth for doing this, because they're like, basically the people of Earth just committed, like, multiple genocides, so we don't want to be associated with Earth, even though we're leaving Earth to colonize other worlds. But, like, that's them, that's not us, we're different. And then because, like, we like to think that we're different from them, that we're more enlightened or evolved or some such bullshit. It's not true. The people of the Union are no different at the end of the day from the ones on Earth. We still argue with another. We still fight. Kind of just like we're still the same people we were back when we were on Earth. And then we learned that, like, the antimatter bubble bombs, they're a bigger no-no than multiples. So, like, Marshall, who's such a big no,
it's a war crime.
It's a war crime. Is such a big, like, hater of the multiples and of the expendables, but is completely willing to commit this war crime that would get you the bullet. It would get you and your planet the bullet if you create.
Yeah, but it doesn't happen it's not against humans, so therefore it's not a war crime. I'm like, it's still a war crime.
It's still a war crime.
Because you're using something that is outlawed. I will post the link now as we wrap up for everyone. So like we're saying, in our Discord, we always like to do these when we do book club. We like to have our Discord jump on with us and also discuss the book that we're talking about each month. And so we always like to post a link for them to jump on and talk with us. So if you're into that type of thing, join us in the Discord. Links down below.
Yeah, and then we go chapter 23. That's when we find out that Berto was scared. And that was the main reason.
That was a cool revelation. I really like that, because the whole time, like, Mickey's giving him shit, but it also is just like, finally.
Yeah, he's finally being honest.
Yes, he's like that. Now, at first I was like, man, that's pretty petty, but you got to think, Berto's been perfect and been great at everything he did. And he's never
without even trying. He's always
without even trying. And he's never shown any restraint or anything of that nature, other than just being lazy and not helping Mickey out of the hole or whatever. And we were thinking, oh, he's just being lazy. No, he was scared. For the first time in his life, people would judge him of being not good at something.
Right. Family. Jinx. Then chapter 24, we kind of get a little bit about, because he's talking all the like failures that he learned about. Then this is where we learn about the planet Longshot, and that it's the only world in the Union where like the humans and the natives like get along with each other. And it was because there was enough time before they found the natives. It was like 20 something years before the natives and them like knew that each other existed. So like this chapter is really about the fear of the other, but it is like an interesting like little introspective of the world building that you get.
Right.
Any thoughts?
No, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, I know we're just trying to get through here, but yeah, no, just the long shot and everything, and just the world building, and just don't learn from your mistakes. This is kind of what this was about. Of just him being a history major is you're learning from the mistakes people made, so that you don't repeat them. Long shot,
and also learning from the things that people did well, and how like you can repeat those things.
Yes, exactly.
Then chapter 25, for the second time, Mickey 7 comes out of the caves alive. And then he's refusing to follow Marshall's orders. He's not going to blow everything up. He demands a meeting with Marshall. Marshall shows up, and he's kind of like, I told the creepers about Mickey 8 is dead. I told the creepers about the bubble bomb. They have access to it now, like, because they took it off of, but I'm the only one. I'm their liaison. They spoke with me.
This was the creepiest thing. No, all pun intended. This was the creepiest part of the book, of realizing that it was the creeper that somehow communicated.
Yeah, that they stole the
Mickey 6's
comms and has been trying to communicate the whole time.
Yeah. And then we got back to the dream. And the one thing about this book that I did not like, but I kind of understood it, is because no one else was in the room when it happened. Because it was like where he finally just him and the caterpillar.
Just fast forwards.
And just was like, and we had a discussion. And then it fast forwards to him walking out of the cave and going to the pillars and having the confrontation of him having the power at that point. He finally just knew that I have the power over Marshall.
This could have been like a big battle, and like it is more like action heavy in the movie, where this is like, no, this just ended up, it ended because of a conversation.
We talked it out.
Which is healthier, but it's not very cinematic or very
No. As soon as we got to this, like the ending of the book, the conclusion. There it is. Words finally got to my head. The conclusion of the book. I was expecting, just this all out. No, we just talked it out. Diplomacy. What's up?
Diplomacy. Yeah, and then in the movie too, Marshall dies, which is so much more satisfying.
Yeah. In this one, Marshall's ego.
Marshall's ego did die, and then 26. We get another office setting of Mickey and Marshall in Marshall's office, and Marshall actually apologizes to Mickey and calls him just Mickey for the first time ever. But he's asking him like, we used all the fuel. We took the fuel out. You need to put the fuel back. It's super dangerous. You're probably going to die, but we'll reprint you. It's all. And Mickey 7's like, no, not doing it. I quit. And Marshall's like, I'm going to kill you. And he's like, no, you're not. I'm the liaison. Yep. And we find out in the next chapter, like, actually, he all he did was ask for the thing back. He never told the creepers what it was. He just like buried it. And then so it's kind of just like, oh, he completely lied to then save everyone in a way. And then we also learned that springtime exists.
Yeah, because that would threw me off too. It was like all the snow's melting. I'm like, what? Hold on. Where did I miss? What did I miss? I was like, do I need to rewind the book? I need to rewind the book. And I was like, no, just randomly at the end.
I was just like, oh, this is like Star Wars planets. You get you have this is Hoth. It's just snowing all the time. Nope, there's springtime.
Nope. So, but no, like we were saying at the beginning of the show, this was a very anticlimactic book because it reminded me of Coen Brothers film. Was like, because I was expecting something later, like after Nosh, he was like, yeah, I just want to show you something. He found the rock, moved all the rubble, dusted off. Like, that's a cool reveal. Not to lie. That's a really cool reveal, and realizing that Mickey's a lot smarter and he's learning from the history that he read of how to deliberate and all of that. Just happened to be with an alien creature. that he came up with this stuff with, but was finally able to get the leverage that he needed to get himself a better life. Yeah. And then Nasha being like, "Oh, that's cool."
Yeah.
Like at the end of it.
Yeah. So not a bad book at all. I thoroughly enjoyed reading it. But there is parts I think that is heightened for me because I did watch the movie first. So I have those characters from the movie in my head as well as the characters from the book. But yeah, at the end I was like, okay, sure.
Yeah. But that being said, I did enjoy the book. It was much more of a character, character based,
for one character.
One character, just Mickey. There was a little bit of character development with Nasha and Kat and Berto.
But it was later, yeah.
It was later. I don't know. But anyway, I understood why they wanted to make a movie out of it because it's definitely a really cool concept.
Yeah.
On that. But that being why they took liberties and not just was like word for word, bar for bar of the book, like a Harry Potter or something like that, where like it's too good to not put on cinema. Whereas Mickey was like, Mickey 7's like, I can make this into a fun movie. Now, granted, it lost $80 million, but we're not talking about that part.
Well, it's because it costs a lot of money to make, and I'm happy that they gave someone like Bong Joon-ho that much money and had the confidence in it.
If you're gonna give it to somebody, give it to Bong Joon-ho.
Yeah. And it was interesting reading both of the book and watching the movie. That there are a lot of similar themes in both. And then there's some themes that exist in the movie that don't exist in the book, and there's some themes that exist in the book that don't exist in the movie. So you're getting a little bit of, when you put the two together, like it speaks to a lot.
Yeah. Well, speaking of a lot, we got our man Ryan. He's in the house. We both clicked at the same time. You do it. There it is.
Aaron, hey. What'd you think of the book?
It was good. It was pretty easy to follow. I mean, It was, as you said, it was pretty much a single person story, times two. So you didn't have to worry about a bunch of different characters, a bunch of different anything else. So it was just enjoyable, and you got their little parts of the backstory. And I mean, I have not watched the movie yet either. I had to wait for I need to read the book. Had to buy the book, and now that I own the book, my wife wants to read it before we see it. So we're gonna just sit back and wait for that to happen at some point. But,
well, according to Soul, it's they
totally different.
Obviously. Yeah, so it's but I haven't watched either. I did go back as soon as I finished the book, which I'm doing audio because it's a lot cheaper for me since I have Spotify Premium for years, and a lot of those audiobooks are just there. So it's a lot easier for me just to do that and listen to the audiobook to go along. It's a lot cheaper for me. As much as I love reading, just it's a cheaper thing to do. And sometimes sometimes you're susceptible to the person who's reading it, and sometimes they're just not good. This guy was pretty good.
That's good to me.
I usually try to get from the library, but I had to when I was getting about 2 weeks out, I'm like, I ain't gonna make it. So I also support my local library or local bookstore instead of Amazoning it.
Why do you think the side characters were just so underwritten to me compared to most books that we read, where there's everyone has a really good fleshed out character, where a lot of these characters, even though it was a good book, the side characters, it wasn't until later on that we finally realized why Nasha was Nasha. Right.
I mean, was the writer in a hurry? I mean, because
or it was the editor, it was a publishing company, maybe.
Yeah. Or did you have to get done in a certain amount of time? Because it wasn't the longest book. It wasn't. So you have basically, you have time to build the story. You build those characters, but if you would spend more time, you probably could have fleshed out the side characters and rearranged some of the order. So if you hey, maybe some of this should have been earlier, maybe should have been later, but that's just how they are doing things. Because as you said, Tasha, one of her big backstories is what chapter 21 or
right.
late. I'm like, that would be nice to know that more about her if she was such a big part of both Mickey's world.
Yeah, because like, go ahead, Sol.
And you get that scene really early in the movie, so I was just like, oh, they're just not giving us the scene. And then like when I read it, I was like, oh, here's the scene from like the first 30 minutes of the movie. Like, so it was interesting to see the order of events. And like I think Mickey is more fleshed out in the book, but all the side characters are really fleshed out in the movie, except for maybe like Berto. But Berto's just an asshole in the movie. But yeah, it's interesting to hold the two, and just like the one character that is completely different, as I said multiple times, is Commander Marshall.
Yeah. I'm taking it that, and I'm like, okay, that'll be a little bit different.
Yeah, he's a completely different character. And as I said earlier before, it's more like he's playing more Trump-like in the movie than a military man.
Well, that will be interesting.
I'll let you know when I watch the movie.
Yeah.
I'll reserve my agreements with you until I watch the movie.
I still haven't decided how I feel about his character too. I think Robert Pattinson did a great job. I think the woman who played Nasha, she was phenomenal in the movie. But yeah, I still like haven't fully decided how I feel about the movie, and now I have the book jumbled in my head.
Yeah, but my buddies have seen it, have mixed reviews about it.
What would you say is your favorite part in the book, and what would you say is the part that you wish you got more of, that like wish was fleshed out a little bit more?
The one that stuck with me is actually just the multiple ways that he died, but more importantly, when he was being used as a medical guinea pig. I did not like that.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
he was a lab rat, basically.
He was a lab rat, and how long and hard he had to die, and that was definitely, I got enough information out of that. But I mean, I'm like, there's all those different ways that you're going to die, but yeah, that one kind of probably bothered me the most, and just, stuck with me the most. But it was definitely fleshed out. I'm kind of agreeing with the back end of the book of anticlimactic, because, hey, I mean, I get it, but you're just there and then you're done, and then, I mean, it felt like you were trying to. It wasn't one book. You can't get too involved, too crazy with your story if you're trying to make book 2, book 3. If it was a standalone, you could have had a lot more oomph on the back end of it that could feel more finalized. It's kind of hard to feel finalized when your main character could be brought back to life,
right?
Almost no matter what. So
at the end of the day, your conclusion was a ceasefire. Like that was the whole. Yeah, your conclusion was a ceasefire. And how many times does a ceasefire last? Not very long, most of the time, as far as our world is concerned. But the fact that your ending of your book is a ceasefire is, again, like I said at the beginning of the show.
But they don't have the bomb. He has the bomb.
Yeah, like Mickey holds all the bombs.
Yeah, it's a ceasefire in Commander Marshall's head, but it's not actually. Yeah, it's not a ceasefire. It's just hey, you guys stay over there, and I'll hide the bomb this way, and it's all good. We're good.
Yeah. Did you all get the feeling? Because I'm just now realizing this is like we would have cliffhangers of certain chapters, like them Mickey 8 beating him in Rochambeau, and then next chapter, here's your filler episode of this anime, because it was just like, I don't care about this chapter. And then because I just want to know about what this decision with Mickey 8 and Mickey 7. But then you still get exposition, because the stuff about Alan that me and Sol really, really liked, it was Alan, right? The guy the super genius that ended up taking over. Yeah, like
taking over the world.
Yeah, like it still was entertaining, but it just felt like
do today.
Yeah, but it just felt like kind of a filler episode. But that's how filler episodes kind of work sometimes. It's like it's still moving the narrative along, just not the pace that you left at the previous episode. So that's where I kind of felt on that.
I mean, you didn't need and you don't really need a filler episode the size of the story.
No,
I mean,
that's the thing.
I mean, if you wanted to make it, 400 pages, 500, you have room to put that stuff in. I think you could have. Yeah, this is where you could work on fleshing out. I don't know, your actual characters instead of
Berto.
I mean.
I still liked it in the book, and I've seen like other authors use this narrative device of like, okay, here's a cliffhanger, and then now I'm going to give you a backstory about something that's going to really play forward later in the story. And some of the stuff does play later, and then some of it is like, oh, I'm just giving you some extra information. So like Mickey's more fleshed out, but it really doesn't play forward to the story at all. And I think that's where like my issue in some of those, like maybe you call them vignettes of the past that you get, where it's just like I don't know. It is the structuring of some of the chapters could have been better, especially the lab rat stuff should have been put much earlier in the book.
Because that had a lot more emotional impact, I think. In this overall story of like, okay, these are why we should care about these characters and not okay. Oh yeah, I guess I really care about books done 50 pages or whatever. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering obviously I haven't seen the movie, but when you're bringing up that the reason why Mickey's on this journey is obviously because of his gambling issues, and then having some random guy on the ship or something or at the colony at the end of the movie, like he was just there the whole time. It just, I don't know, it just seems kind of, I mean, the book actually seems a little bit more realistic because once you actually get away from the situation, I mean, the odds are you're not going to have some random guy on there that people aren't going to get.
That works for the guy that you owe money to. Yeah.
No,
and
it's fine.
And in that, like, spoilers for the movie too, that guy, it gets Berto to try to murder Mickey. So again, Berto is much worse in the movie. Not a great guy.
Yeah. I mean, in the book he's scared and all that kind of stuff, but he tries in his own way, but I don't think that seems probably not so much in the movie. It looks like
no. In the movie, he's a completely terrible person that you're just like, Mickey, why did you ever like become friends with this guy? And Mickey 18 actually is just like, why did you ever decide to be friends with this guy? And Mickey 18 actually gets into a fight with him and like almost tries to murder him too. So like in the movie, because like Mickey 18's like, we've taken shit from this guy for too long, and 17 is trying to save him, and 18's like, no, he's gotta die.
So the 18's personality has definitely changed to, I don't care no more. You're just an jerk.
Yeah, as much as I would love to see like backstories for Marshall, like Marshall's just a straightforward, like he's pretty black and white as far as the characters.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I think it worked fine for the story, and the fact that you beat him because you outsmarted him.
Yeah, and because he's the stereotypical military guy, which again we probably need like to talk about like the stereotypes that we put on certain characters, and that you kind of just know who he is and what his character is going to be because you see that in every book and movie. It's like the military guy who's always right and never listens to anyone else, and it's because of him that everyone ends up in peril because he's such a dick and is like, I'm the authority.
Like I was saying before, and Brian just, I don't know if you watched the start of the episode, but I was literally waiting for the marshal to be like, you need me on that wall, like the whole like Jack Nicholson from A Few Good Men. Like that's exactly the type of character he was. He was a hard ass that it was his way or the highway, and he was going to it doesn't matter if you're disposable, because Mickey was, Literally, he was expendable. So the whole time, and he didn't like him anyway because he was expendable and his whole religious thing, which I wish they would have gone more into that religion aspect, because it was like, they don't like people that are expendable. Cool, got it. And then they just didn't go into it. That's a whole different religion you just told us about, and I would love to know more about that.
Touching. It's like I don't need a backstory necessarily about him, but if you want to expand upon that whole part of it in the overall context of who, because that is probably a decent size of the population, and they've decided to go do what they're doing and that kind of stuff. But that again, that could have probably been the filler chapter as opposed to some of the other items.
Because we get the hint, as I said earlier, like in one of the chapters, that like you have one guy was like, oh, he's a natalist, that's a cult. And then the other person like, that's not and then we learn later like that half of the people on the ship are natalists. And so if you have half the people are natalists and then half of the people on the ship think that religion is a cult, that's obviously people are gonna butt heads about that on the ship, especially if you're living in a compacted place for years on end. So
you'd think there'd be some clashes there.
No, this book was a little too linear for that.
Oh yeah, they could even go to the gym with that, because they want to burn those calories. They're not going to waste their time fighting.
I swear to you that this writer dislikes gyms and jails, but he puts them in the book anyway.
That's funny.
Yeah, like I said, even in the movie when they're running low on supplies and being able to feed everyone, like they were like, we're limiting activity so that way you don't burn as much calories. And they're like, they put a ban on sex in the movie because it's like, that's going to burn too many calories.
I know.
Meanwhile, wasn't it in this book they talked about like all the making sure that they were good with the sexual transmitted diseases and stuff? Didn't they talk about that in this book?
There was a weird part in the book where they were just like, everything that humans have ever created is either about sex or about war.
That's what it was. Yeah, and then like
antibiotics were created so that way we don't get STDs.
And it was just, and then something was invented, and like you thought it was going to do this, like no, it's just basically porn.
It was just and porn.
And porn. This writer's kinky, dude.
Maybe that's why the book's so short. He had to cut off so much of it.
But he regrets nothing.
Well done, well done, Ryan. Well done, well done.
We need the director's cut.
Yeah.
It's funny.
But, any other thoughts that you have on this book, or what you're gonna take away from it, or anything?
I mean, it was an easy read, quick read. I mean, and I enjoyed it enough to want to keep pushing through. I have to admit, though, I'm reading Dungeon Carl right now. I'm enjoying that.
The freaking GIF. He recommends it and then never shows up to talk about it. And I've been recommending that book and that series to like all my buddies who are like into like the RPG and stuff, like RPG gaming.
And T's not here for this one, and she's the one who recommended Mickey 7.
That's funny. I just show up to like whichever ones. I'm like, all right, we'll read whatever. I ain't worried about it, and I'll show up because I want to make sure somebody does, right?
Right.
I know.
Well, we always thank you, dude. It's always a pleasure having you on.
Even though 2:30 in the afternoon, come on.
That's because of this guy. It's all his fault.
I'm here with my family for the Kentucky Derby, so we had to go on a little bit early, so I can because like literally as soon as we get done with this, I got to go do family stuff. So
no, it's all good. I mean, I'm sitting in the car. Obviously, you could tell. I'm like, I'm gonna go to the gym after this. I'm like, all right.
Is Kat gonna be there? Because that's probably the only person who's gonna be there. I had to throw in that gym joke based on this book.
Yeah, there you go. I think we would burn enough calories here, but. But with Dungeon Carl, I'm enjoying that one. That's the one I want to see on the screen because there's so much to that story.
I want to see that animated.
Fun. Yes, I think they've been trying to shop that around as far as animated.
Yeah.
But we are getting Borderlands 4 coming out this year. So if you want to get close to Dungeon Crawl Carl, there you go.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I'm going to Thunderbolts tomorrow, but that's different.
I just saw that last night. Very good.
That's good.
And I think you'll enjoy the asterisk.
I keep seeing that today of all day. I guess just because people are finally seeing it, like not just critics.
Yeah.
So people are finally seeing it today, and they're like, "Wow, that asterisk actually has a thing. That makes it has a meaning towards it." I want to see Sinners so bad.
Yeah, me too.
I'm told obviously it's really good. I just gotta get the time.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have the book review. We need to just start the movie sometime at the same time. Watch it somewhere.
And then Sunday night, I'm gonna go see Revenge of the Sith in theaters.
Yeah. There you go.
There you go. Well, you have a good rest of your day because it's much earlier.
Always a pleasure,
for you
Ryan.
than
Thank
us.
you so much.
Thank you, Ryan.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, all right. Talk to you guys later.
See ya.
We did it again.
We did it.
For everyone out there, thank you all so much for joining us again for another Rev Bookshelf. I think I got the title right 2 times in a row. So there we go. It's if you keep repeating it, you're going to remember it.
Good job.
All right. So yeah, just we grow over time. So I'm here. Yep, that was my dad. So yeah, guys, I got to get out of here. But you can catch us Rev Sports wrap it up every Wednesday at 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern, as we wrap up everything that is in the world of sports. We're going to talk about that really good Jalen Brunson crossover that left that guy dead, but the Knicks moved on. Toronto Maple Leafs moved on. I don't like it, but
we're not going to get the battle of the Kachuk brothers.
No, not going to get that.
But yeah. All links to Discord, Patreon down below. Discord's completely free. If you want to be part of the book club, you could join the Discord down below. Next month's book is going to be Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. And thank you so much, Josh, for being here.
Thank you, Sol, for always having me.
And go hang out with your family.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys later. Bye.